Oh, didn't even see. No, you're not. But I'm busy with my own thing.
Recording in progress. Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Good morning, honorable members. Hello.
Morning, Chair.
Morning.
Morning, Chairperson.
Good
Morning, Chairperson.
Smart Lengwa. How are you this morning? How are you this morning?
We are good, Chairperson, and yourself. It's Manduli.
We are good, Chair.
Amen.
Siraiti Chair, Nkosi Tuli.
Thank you very much. Now it's 10 o'clock. Let us start our meeting. Honorable members,
Chairperson.
yes, thank you very much. Honorable members, let me greet you, honorable members. I hope you are all doing well on this beautiful day. Allow me to welcome you to the last multi-party caucus women for this year. And we thank God that we come to this day today. It's not our wisdom, it's not our whatever, but it is God who guides us to this day today. Reflecting that back on all the caucus we had over the course of this year, I am filled with gratitude for the fruitful discussion we have had during the last our caucus meeting. Let us start our final meeting with that same enthusiastic, and may we always remember that somewhere, somehow, there are members which we are today. We said they are on water, cold water, or they faces some, and some of them we lost. But we thank God that today we are all here. With those few words, honorable members, I declare this meeting open. Now, Mandy, to flight our agenda.
Yes, Mahlengwa. It's flighted.
Thank you. Mandy, is there any apologies? Is there any apologies you received, Mandy?
Yes, Mahlengwa, we received apologies, 12 apologies. These are for Ms. Bilankulu, Ms. Mente, Ms. Gina, Ms. Breed, Ms. Pando, Mafu, Sharif, Ms. Lucas, Ms. Twete, Minister Kivit, Ms. Ngwenya, and Minister Pasha.
Thank you very much. Let us put those apologies to you to adopt it, honorable members. Is any mover for this, the adoption of the yes, Honorable Kipi.
I move for
Honorable
Chair.
I second, Honorable Kibi here.
Thank you very much. Apologies has been adopted and seconded. Thank you. Here is our agenda in front of you. Is there any mover of the agenda?
Chair Mantuli, I move for the adoption of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Manduli. The seconder.
Chair, Honorable Declare Mashodi, seconded.
agenda.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are now working on the with the agenda which is adopted and seconded. Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable members, we have 3 presenters today. It is the Department of Basic Education, Department of Health, and Department of Social Development. Let me find out from Mandy who is in the platform now.
I'll send it. Then if not,
Vala, close your mic.
okay. Sure.
Mandy,
Yes, Mahlengwa?
is the Department of Education arrive?
Yes, Mahlengwa. Basic Education, Health and Social Development are here.
Thank you very much. Let us start with the basic of education. Let me welcome the Department of Basic Education. We as women ask you as a Department of Basic Education because we are the ones who carry the burdens of these children when they are pregnant, when they are not doing well. We are the ones who suffered a lot. Even their fathers, they said, even their fathers, they said, we as women knows that who is pregnanted this child, but it is very painful to us as mothers, as gogos. That's why we call you to come to a consensus to see this pandemic. We call it a pandemic because in our homes now, there are no quietness because of this highly pregnant. In those few words, Department of Education, I welcome you.
Chairperson.
Yes.
Chairperson, it's Honorable Majosi.
Yes.
I am sorry to disturb you, Chair, but honestly, Ma'am Tolashe is not respecting the meeting. She is having another meeting with other people on the side and has opened the mic. We can barely hear what you are saying because of Ma'am Tolashe.
Thank you, Honorable Majosi. Mandy.
Yes.
Please mute Ma'am Tolashe.
Yes, Ms. Tolashe has been muted.
Oh, thank you very much. With these few words, Department of Education is welcome to this, and the platform is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and good morning to all the honorable members in the House. My name is Simone Gaye. I just would want to put my video on. Can you see me? I am having a bit of difficulty to put it on. I'm struggling to get, let me just, there we go. Thank you, Chair. Chairperson, I wish to apologize for our DG and our Minister. They are both taken up by other activities that have been pre-scheduled, and so I wish to table their apology. I am the Deputy Director General in the Department of Basic Education, and so I will lead the team today. This topic is very close to our hearts as well. We take it very seriously because, like you say, it's something that affects all of us in society. And so we are very pleased to come and do this presentation here today. I have with me two colleagues who work particularly in this particular area, and I'm going to ask Mr. Mr. Muzi Ndlovu, to please come on and to introduce who will be doing the presentation, but also to do some comments from his side, as he's a direct line manager in this respect. Over to you, Mr. Ndlovu.
Thank you. Thank you, Didichi Geya, and greetings, Honorable Chair and honorable members. My name is Mr. Muzi Ndlovu. I'm the Director Health Promotion, and one of the programs that we're managing in the Directorate is Comprehensive Sexuality Education and the Prevention Management of Learner Pregnancy. Chair, let me just a disclaimer as we start to say our presentation will focus on the prevention and management of learner pregnancies, which will include children and teenagers who are in school, as we are the custodians of all learners who are in school. And to just indicate, Chair, to say, yeah, the department has been dealing with the matter. Remember, I just want to remind the honorable members to say we had the 1999 measures of managing e-learner pregnancy in schools, which was in 2016, where we had to revise the measures from a court order for the minister to develop a policy as to manage e-learner pregnancy, because the goal of the department is to ensure that every learner that enrolls in grade 1 is maintained and retained in the schooling system until they complete basic education. So having said that, we have prepared a presentation on the efforts of the department in dealing with e-pregnancy when it occurs in schools, as to how we support the learners who fall pregnant, and also how do we ensure that we admit these learners to the system so that we support them so that they can finish their education. Chair, allow me to invite Ms. Busisa Nokama, who is the Deputy Director in terms of comprehensive sexuality education and managing prevention and management of learner pregnancy program in the sector. Over to you, Ms. Nokama. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you, Ms. Nokama.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ndlovu. Good day, honorable members, honorable chair, and our colleagues from the Department of Social Development and the Department of Health. I'm going to be presenting on behalf of the department, and my presentation will focus on the purpose, intersecting factors impacting on education outcomes, response to intersecting vulnerabilities through DBE policy and legislative framework, the DBE policy on the prevention and management of learner pregnancy in schools, how we disseminated the policy to ensure that it gets to all the levels of the department, and programs supporting the implementation of the policy in terms of prevention and in terms of management, and the development of the DBE policy implementation guide, and monitoring and evaluation, and also recommendations. You can go to the next slide, Ms. Geya. The purpose of this presentation is to provide an overview of the DBE programs that prevent and manage learner pregnancy in schools. So my presentation will also highlight the intersecting vulnerabilities that affect our education outcomes. And for us, Chair, it's not just learner pregnancy, but it's multiple factors and multiple vulnerabilities, because you can see a child and see that this child is pregnant, but what caused the pregnancy? Because our children are actually suffering in terms of poverty. Our children are suffering in terms of grief and trauma. So there are a number of multiple vulnerabilities that they're going through. And in order to be effective in our response, we actually need to respond with multiple interventions with multiple partners. Next slide. So the Department of Education, Ms. Geya, we can go to the next slide. The Department of Education, to respond to these intersecting vulnerabilities has led a conducive policy and legal environment. And because you can't really look at learner pregnancy policy in isolation, you need to look at other policies within the department that actually mirrors this policy. We have the policy on HIV, STI, and TB, which aims to improve the coordination and mainstreaming of the basic education sector response in HIV and pregnancy. This policy aims to accelerate implementation of a comprehensive strategy for prevention, treatment, care, and support. And we also have our integrated school health policy that ensures that our learners receive health services within our school environment, and not just health services, but also psychosocial support. And these two policies are actually implemented through standard operating procedures for the provision of sexual reproductive health rights and social support services in secondary schools. So these SOPs give clear guidelines in terms of which services can be provided in the school environment and which services should be provided outside the school environment. And we also have our policy on science, which actually gives procedures to identify, assess, and provide programs for all learners who require additional support to enhance their participation and inclusion in schools. And as you said, Che, our learners are getting pregnant, our children are getting pregnant. And for us as a department, it is not just pregnancy, because our learners are being raped. And in order to address that as a department, we have our protocols for the management and reporting of sexual abuse and harassment in schools. And this protocol gives procedures for addressing allegations and specifically it details how the schools must respond to reports of sexual abuse and harassment that has been perpetrated by our learners, educators, and other school staff. And for us, the incidents of sexual abuse, Che, or harassment, we acknowledge that they're not all occurring in the schooling environment. They can also occur outside the school environment, and they can happen during holidays or during the school term. But for us, it doesn't matter where the abuse occurs, but we treat it the same way. It's reported the same way. It's managed the same way. So, and it doesn't matter when it occurred, because the time elapsed really does not matter, but we actually, where it is disclosed, then we actually manage it in the department. And in terms of the policy that respond to prevention and management of learner pregnancy, it was gazetted in 2021. You can go to the next slide. It was gazetted in 2021, and it aims to reduce the incidence of learner pregnancy through the provision of quality comprehensive sexuality education, meaning that we want our learners to learn through the classroom about sexual reproductive health information and access to adolescent and youth-friendly services. And that means that, Che, we're not only providing information to our learners, but we provide an environment where they can actually access these sexual reproductive health services, because we aim to provide we aim to promote the constitutional right of our girls to education by ensuring they are not excluded from school as a result of pregnancy and birth, and to provide a supportive environment for the continuity of learning. So in order to realize these goals, we have 5 provisions. One is enabling the environment, which ensures that our schools are safe, free of stigma, and provide a non-discriminatory environment. And it guarantees the right to equal education during pregnancy and when our learners actually return to the school. And we have a prevention component, which actually speaks to the provision of sexual reproductive health information, and so that our learners can have the necessary knowledge and information, including delayed sexual debut, abstinence, contraception, and role of gender and power dynamics in relationships. We have care counseling and support, because we want to ensure that our schools provide an environment where all pregnant learners can access professional information, advice, referrals, treatment, care, counseling, and support. And in terms of impact mitigation, we mitigate the impact of pregnancy through the provision of a systematic, sustainable, structured, safe, and empowering environment. With that said, Chair, we are actually acknowledging that our schooling environment has support structures that ensures that our learners are being supported. We have the school-based support team and district-based support team that have a clear role in terms of identifying practices that cause barriers, and actually barriers in terms of learning and coordination that is needed in order to support our learners. And we also have the fifth provision that focuses on the policy management and implementation. In this, we seek to ensure sustainable management structures and strategies are in place at all levels of the system to plan and implement the provision of this policy and monitor and report its progress. You can go to the next slide, Ma'am Geya. So we disseminated the policy, and as aforementioned, it was gazetted in 2021 and it was launched in 2022, and we had to start with our management structure. So we disseminated it to the district directors, the Council of Education Ministers, HEDCOM, the school governing forums, and the National Consultative Forum. And we disseminated it at all provincial level, at all provinces from 2022 to 2023 with the aim of accelerating the implementation of the policy and enabling our provincial colleagues to further disseminate the policies to all levels of the department, and also support our schools to develop the school level policy. And to ensure that our learners get the support that they need, we printed the policy for distribution to all our quintile 1 to quintile 3 schools, because we wanted our schools to be aware of this policy. And we finalized the abridged version of the policy. And I want to note that the Eastern Cape also translated the policy into Braille, and we shared it with Inclusive Education so that it can be distributed to all our inclusive schools. Next slide. Ma'am Geya. And I want to also note, as she is going to the next slide, that in terms of the advocacy workshops that we have conducted, we conducted all those workshops with the Department of Social Development and the Department of Health, because we are actually acknowledging that they are crucial in terms of the response. And the programs that we have within the department, we have co-curricular programs which augment what we offer in the classroom. And our programs include donor-funded programs like the adolescent and youth programs that are funded by Global Fund. We have Dreams that is funded by the USAID, and we have our own programs as the department, such as Life Skills and the Girls and Boys Education Movement. And in terms of the classroom, we have life orientation and life skills as a subject that actually offers sexual reproductive health information. And all our learners are actually capacitated from an early age, because I know that in the early grades, they are taught about the bad touch and the good touch. And in terms of the ISHP policy, we actually have that policy that actually ensures, or rather program that ensures, that services are offered in the schooling environment with the Department of Health and the Department of Social Development. And we have our school safety framework. And in terms of the school safety program, it actually addresses the physical and psychological safety of both our learners and educators. And we have psychosocial support programs that ensure that we meet emotional, mental, and social needs of our learners and educators. And we ensure that we have multimedia advocacy and mobilization campaigns in order to ensure that we accelerate the implementation of the policy. Like the department will also embark in an EUP dialogue, which is early and unintended pregnancy advocacy. This will actually be on radio stations in order to ensure that our learners are capacitated and the community is aware of our policy and the impact of learner pregnancy in our schooling environment. You can go to the next slide. So when we developed the LPPM implementation guide, we actually looked at the programs that already exist in the sector. So we wanted to know, where are those donor-funded programs? And we wanted to understand, in terms of coverage, how many schools are supported through donor funders and our stakeholders and partners, and how far are they actually supporting a specific district? And how can we institutionalize those programs? Because we need to ensure that all the programs programs that are actually implemented in the school environment are actually aligned with the policies of the department and other programs of the department so that we can sustain them. And we actually looked at the policies that actually exist in our schooling environment. And you would actually note that, Honorable Chair, that the learner attendance policy that we have within the sector also accommodate our learners that are pregnant. And we have our exam policy that also accommodate our learners when they are writing exams. They ensure that they are actually accommodated for them to write exams. And in case an incident occurs, then support is provided. And I do want to highlight our second chances programs that ensure that our learners, even when they are out of the school, they're actually getting information or curriculum support. And we also have our policy on SIAS, which is screening, identification, assessment, and support, which offers us an individual support plan. That means every learner's experience is different. So it should be dealt with differently. And we are looking into a complementary approach because we are acknowledging that many barriers that are faced by our learners are actually falling outside the formal mandate of the Department of Education. So that is why when we address the needs of our learners, including learner pregnancy, we require the active participation of our parents, of our communities, of our traditional leaders, of our sister departments, and the community-based organizations, the NGOs, businesses, and developmental partners and funders. If you can see on the corner of my presentation, there's a learner-centered approach there that actually brings everyone together, ensuring that our parents are actually involved in the response, our communities are involved in the response, and other stakeholders. You can go to the next slide. Ms. Geyer? As Ms. Geyer is going to the next slide, I do want to highlight that we actually have seen a positive response and positive reception of this policy from our provinces and also internally, because we are actually responding in learner pregnancy as a department, as a sector, because you would note that in the monitoring and evaluation slide, we are actually highlighting the fact that to determine the effectiveness of this policy depends on multi-sectoral collaboration to interpret its progress and outcomes. So when we are monitoring, we should ensure that there is actually an integrated approach, meaning that we integrate. The integrated approach should start at district level and provincial level. So it should be aligned with our M&E system as a department. And as a department, we do have our school functionality tools, the school governing body functionality tool, and the school-based support team functionality tools to actually assess if there's this policy at school level, if it has been developed, and how is the school actually managing learner pregnancy and actually responding in the issue of learner pregnancy. We have our education management information system, which actually captures all our data that is actually gathered at school level. And every financial year or beginning of the year, school year, we are conducting school readiness. That's when we're visiting our schools to actually assess if they are actually ready for the school year. And that will also assist us, Honorable Chair, in also identifying that ensuring that our learners are not excluded from education because of their pregnancy, that access is enabled. And we ensure that all the partners that are working with us in the sector are who are providing care and support services operate within the systems of the department, operate within the school-based support team, operate within the district-based support team. So we are working with SACE, who actually gives us statistics in terms of the cases that has been reported of educators that have conducted sexual misconduct. And I do want to highlight that the highest province is actually Gauteng, and it's leading with 40 cases, reported cases, and it's followed by KZN with 36 reported cases, and the lowest is Northern Cape. And we're encouraging reporting because we believe that when people are reporting, that means that there's something happening. And we are getting quarterly reports from the Department of Health in our ISHP task team quarterly meetings, and we also conduct life skills interprovincial meetings meetings quarterly. So we are getting an update in terms of what is happening at provinces. And we are working with the Stats SA because we wanted to get a sense of what is really happening so that we can understand. Because when we monitor our schools, we also find questions from our principals that some of these learners are married. So we had to approach the statistics to also understand how many of our youngsters are actually getting married. And we have found that there are actually 207 child marriages that took place in 2021, and 188 of those were brides, and 19 were actually youngsters that actually were groomed. So that means even our boy child are actually getting married. And in terms of monitoring and support, as the department, we are continuing to look at the services that are being offered by our learners through our partners and stakeholders. And we're looking at the schools that have additional support that is coming from donor funders and other partners. And we look at the quality of services that is provided. And we confirm that there are linkages from the health services and to other services. And we're also looking at the impact of the services in our health achievements and retention, in our health outcomes, achievements of our learners in terms of education, and how we actually retain our learners in school. Thank you so much, Chair. Over to you, Mr. Ndlovu.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. That's our presentation for today, and we hand back to you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much for the very comprehensive report or presentation. Now we're going to ask our honorable members to engage the department either in question or comments or whatever. But now is the time for the members to engage the department. But there is one question which I can pose to the department, the question of community leadership. How often department meet with this community leadership? Because in some cases, they are the cause of these things, because they are talking about reimburse the parents doing this and this, lobola, because that marriage was not a marriage. Lobola, koka imali enkosi. I want this department to monitor this community leadership. Thank you. Let me take hands now of the honorable members. Number one is Jane Mananeso, followed by Wilma. Number three, D. Peters. Number four, Tembani. Number five, Zetma Josie. In that order. Let me start with Jane.
Thank you, Chairperson. And let me start by welcoming the presentation. Indeed, the presentation, it is so fruitful and insightful. However, one would want to ask a question to the department. What is the involvement of the police? Because on your presentation, you outlined that this process, it's a multi-sectoral approach work. And on the presentation, I don't see the footprint of Department of the police. And if not, what are the prospects to ensure that they become part and parcel of this program as when it unfolds at the lower levels? And one would want to advise as well with regards to prevention and management of teenage pregnancy programs at school, that there's a need of these assistant educators in schools to be roped in this particular program, so that this program becomes part and parcel of what they do on a daily basis in terms of having talks with the young ones in the schools. However, I'm happy about all the developed policies, at least it shows that we do have a political commitment in terms of ensuring that we deal with teenage pregnancy at that level. However, I've noted that you are using status A as well, which is good. And when you do your reports, I just want to check, how do you get to monitor and evaluate if these programs are actually assisting us by involving the learners themselves? I've noted you've got your GEM and BEMS program. However, one can tell you that those particular programs are just a compliance programs, but they are not radical in terms of ensuring that we create a safe space, and that is anti-teenage pregnancy space in our schools. So how do you make sure that you bring those kids into them getting to know that these services that we are bringing to yourselves actually working for you? And lastly, I am very excited about the fact that Eastern Cape has a translated policy in terms of braille. I want to check, in all these provinces, do we have these policies with our indigenous languages? Because I think sometimes as government, we're doing much, but for the fact that we're using English as the first language in terms of disseminating information, somehow it creates some gap as well for those who can't even read English. So I want to know if we do have these programs with indigenous languages. If not, as we move to 2024, can we have such, so that SGPs, as they understand what is it that we are trying to do in terms of prevention and management of teenage pregnancy? That's it from my side, Chairperson, and thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Let us go to Wilma.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. And good morning, and good morning to everyone on the platform. Thank you to the Department of Basic Education for your presentation. I just have a few questions. Firstly, I just recently read a newspaper article, I can't find it, where the matric who are supposed to go and write the exam, but the person who ticks off the attendance register, if they see the person is pregnant or the child is pregnant, and they say, no, call your parents to come and fetch you, you cannot write exams. So by the time they get back with their parents, then they say, well, sorry, you're too late. And I'm very disappointed that these things are happening. I would have expected the educators and the teachers to know that pregnant girls have a right to come and write their exams, especially when it's the matric exam. So I'd like to know what support the department is giving to those girls who now can't obviously write the exam and will have to wait maybe for next year to rewrite the exams when the rewrite opportunity opens. But I seriously want to know, when these things happen, does the department inform their educators that they cannot turn away those who are pregnant from writing their exams? It's a very, very unfair situation. So I'm just curious what the department is doing to support them. It's a pity I can't find the article now. But then secondly, this kind of presentation, training, support, is that also given to schools where there are a number of disabled children? I'm hoping the department does give this kind of presentation to schools with special needs as well. Thirdly, I want to know if the department has statistics with regards to the marriages where children below the age of 18, you said that South Africa has that. So I want to know what age are these children? Were they married with parental consent? Or are they legally married, forced marriage? And what is the department doing about that if it's an illegal marriage, or maybe the child doesn't even know that they are married? So what is the department doing about that? And I think that's it for now. Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Wilma. Let me go to Peters.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks to the Department of Education for the presentation. I also want to probably ask questions. I'll ask questions that the two comrades who spoke before me raised, but probably in a different line. I just want to know from the department whether they believe that the life orientation program is bearing fruit. Because for me, it doesn't seem like it is really productive. But also, Chairperson, what is the role of the parents? Because first and foremost, these children come from a family. And if you listen to the teachers about their experiences with regards to parents who would come and threaten teachers at school and demand all sorts of things from school. The other thing is that we have seen a phenomenon of 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds becoming mothers. And that does not happen in the school environment. It happens from home, from the community. What is the role? And I'm happy, Chairperson, you raised the question about whether the community leaders are being involved by the Department of Education in this particular type of programs. I also want to know, Chairperson, what is the role of our faith-based organizations? Because I'll make an example. In the times that I was in high school many years ago, I don't want to say when, Jane will know my age, there used to be priests who would come at assembly in the morning, or different motivational speakers to come and motivate the learners about life and what it is that you need to look at in life. So I also want to know, I want to know, Chairperson, whether there is still a program called Adopt a School program by the SAPS, which is one of the things Jane spoke to. Because if you have a policeman or woman attached to a particular school, they build a relationship, the learners can be able to go and report and engage with that police woman or man. But also the issue of the languages that is being used, whether the learners understand that. Lastly, Chair, is it possible, and I'm happy the Department of Social Development is also supposed to be on the program, is it possible for an MOU between the Department of Basic Education and Department of Social Development to make sure that schools do have social workers? Because it is important that we have people who are trained within the helping or the listening professions, who've got the skill to listen, can be able to be there for our learners. If we want to save the future of this country, we need to save the children first. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let us go to Temban.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and greetings to all the members in the platform. I'm not going to be long, really. I think, firstly, we must welcome the comprehensive report, and we appreciate the fact that what we are given is student-centric, and in its approach, its multi-sectoral approach, and in its prevention, treatment, and support when it comes to this matter. I think my question, honestly, is also going to be just covering, touching base on what the former speakers have said. One, I just would like to know if perhaps the department has at some point, because the discussion that speaks to clinics, the Department of Social Development being present in our schools is not new. It's a discussion that we have had, especially when it comes to the time where we receive statistics that are reporting in terms of learner pregnancy. So I just want to check if there has been some form of a feasibility study and perhaps an analysis of the value creation that would have if our schools were to have mandatory clinic visits, even if it's once a week or twice a week, and also mandatory presence of social workers from the department. Have we done that particular study to just see and make an analysis in terms of what would benefit and what could possibly be the impact
Remember, this
in
is
us
new.
trying to address this particular phenomena that we are dealing with? And it's very important when we speak about the issues when it comes to police. I think I'm also interested to know when it comes to police, how far is that particular engagement? But I think we also need to have an appreciation that in South Africa, in terms of our basic family structure, we have a very dynamic family structure. And as a result, we must appreciate the fact that children don't necessarily come from homes where there is a father and a mother that are present and are supportive in terms of their education route that they are taking. So in terms of our engagement, I think it will be very important in terms of how do we ensure that we try and understand the setting they're coming from, and how do we bring everyone on board, including your traditional leaders, as we've said, our community leaders. Because I feel at times, especially when it comes to Twala and young children being married, it comes to the basis of no information and no understanding in terms of our leaders and family members and elders. And I think that to a greater extent, they themselves need some form of education and guidance and support in that matter. I think for now, Chair, those would be that. But other than that, I think we must really appreciate the report, especially on the aspect that it's really focusing on the student. I think it's a positive way forward in addressing the phenomena we're facing. Thank you very much, Chair. You are still muted, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I'm muted. Let me go to Machozi. I'm sorry, Machozi. I'm sorry very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and all honorable members. I think today we are discussing a very pivotal issue which affects all of us and affects our families, because now we no longer have that structure of a family, because it's not promoted anymore to subscribe to family values, but it saddens us that we see these type of issues and challenges. I'm not sure, Chairperson, but I feel very uncomfortable with teachers and district officials having to go to ask a boyfriend to release a student so that they can come and write their exams. It is not proper. This is not how we foresee South Africa. This is not what we want our kids to grow up in such situations. I don't know, Chairperson. Maybe they will advise us as the basic education. Do we have any legislation? And I'm happy that Honorable Peters raised also an issue of the community, society, community, maybe leaders that are in the in societies, that we should actually include them, and we should have social workers at schools so that these kids can actually have someone they can talk to. We come from broken homes, and we understand that because we are adults now. We grew up and we could see some of these things happening, but now it's taking a different toll, and it's telling us that our kids are suffering more than us. Is there any legislation that can be adopted so that we proceed with that? Because I don't see myself fetching my child from a boyfriend's house, asking him to release that child because they must go write an exam. It is not fair on their future, and we can understand their mindset that it is not groomed in a manner that they can think as a matured person. Maybe the Department of Basic Education can help us, Chair. In maybe there's a policy that we can draft that will then align with what we are speaking about today, because really it is a serious problem, Chairperson. We can't just stand and watch while everything is tearing apart, and the younger generation does not have a way forward when it comes to their educational, fundamental education. So I just wanted to check with the Chairperson and maybe to have these engagements and dialogues. I'm not sure with the committee, how far can we go in terms of having these oversight dialogues to engage with parents, to engage with community leaders, so that they just don't sit and watch while our kids go through so much challenges. Thank you, Chair. Unmute, Chairperson.
Nombuyiselo, let me go to Nombuyiselo.
Person, don't mute yourself now.
Yes. We are true.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and good morning to your good self. Good morning to honorable members in the platform, and good morning to our presenters and representatives from basic education. And let me also join the queue and acknowledge and appreciate the presentation that we received on learner pregnancies that affects our young girls. Honorable Chair, it's not for the first time that I have engaged with the process. Ms. Nonkama has presented to the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education that I'm part of. And when we got the presentation, it was addressing two issues, learner pregnancy and learner dropout. Because as we are aware that we have a serious problem of learners that are dropping out of the schooling system before they finish their basic education. And we've got also the presentation of how the department is trying its level best to make sure that they reach out to all the learners out there that are not attending to school. There are other programs of a second chance program of second chance matric that would also allow learners to finish up their studies. Chair, but coming to this one, there was an issue that we also had a problem with of learners that have registered to write the final exam, and there were those that did not attend to come in and sit for exams. And the explanation was that some of the cases are due to learner pregnancy. Those learners, some of them are pregnant. There were cases like Honorable Velma has indicated that you'd find a situation whereby learners were not allowed to write at school when they are pregnant, of which that one were assured that is not actually what has happened. One of the issues that some parents will deny their learners to go to schools when they're pregnant. It happened in KZN, one of the cases that was reported that even when the department officials went to plead with the mother that can you please allow your child to go and write exam? And she refused to say she's pregnant. She behaved like an adult, and now she must bear the consequences. She's not going to sit with other kids and write exams. And there are also some cases whereby, learners will feel isolated in schools by other learners that they would say things like they are making them sleep when they're pregnant in class and all those things. So those are some of the cases that were affecting also the learner dropout of learners. But what is also the observation is that the learner pregnancy happens or pregnancy happens at home. Learners, they come to school being pregnant out of the premises of the school. And you'd remember that in 2021, we received a report that learners or children got pregnant, or the pregnancy rate went up during COVID when learners were not attending school. And I think it's that what other honorable members have been raising to say this thing of learner pregnancy is a societal matter. It's not only the issue of basic education. We need everyone to come on board. We need parents. What are our parents saying or doing about it? Social development. Where are the social workers when all these things happen? The police, when a 9-year-old get pregnant, what happens? Whether there's a case opened, whether there's a follow-up of what happened to the kid and all those things. So there are many role players that's supposed to take part in making sure that we deal with this learner pregnancy, because some of the learners are not even impregnated by their own peers. They're impregnated by older people. So I would also agree with all members that say we would need to have a visibility of social workers, whether at school level or even in our communities, because I think we need such people that will have a skill to address this issue of learner pregnancy, because it cannot all be done at the basic education or at schools, because some of the things they happen at home. And when they enter the school premises already, that the pregnancy has happened. So that is my contribution, Chair. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nomboi. Now, I think we exhausted all the members, but I have a hand of Gela Makela. Makela is there?
Yes, Chairperson, thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity. I think, Chair, I'm covered by Comrade Jane when she was raising the issues, Chair, and yourself, that the community must also play a vital role to make sure that they are involved, because really, indeed, what Honorable Adun said, it's a societal matter. We need all of us to work together so that at least we prevent this teenage pregnancy, because really it's what is happening where I'm deployed, Chair. It's so scary. You in one of the school, Heidelberg High School, where you will get 32 beaches at school, which are learners, where they don't wear underwear. They sit at the front, and while the teacher is teaching, they will show their, Ubuntu Babo Chair. which it's also disturbing the parents, I mean the teachers. So really there was a program that was done by the Department of Education and also the Department of Health to educate and also try to motivate and also to tell the children what they are doing is not right. But I think it's very key because these things are starting at home, you know. So where a parent must make sure that they look after their children and educate them also about these things of the sex issues, because really they are so sexual hyper, these kids nowadays. But it's something that need all of us to go down and really educate, Chair. So I'm covered, Chair, by you, Chair, and also Comrade Manani. Thank you.
Thank you, Makela. Let me give it an opportunity to Mantuli.
Thank you, Chairperson, and greetings to everyone on the platform. Chair, initially, I am covered by the other speakers, but I wanted to emphasize on the issue of poverty. Hence, all the speakers, some of the speakers were hinting and touching that these girl children, they are not even impregnated by their peers. It may be the taxi driver, the business person, and or any other older person who is attracting that child by giving her money. We all know that we can't. It might be 95 or 85% that can't satisfy their children. Some other children are caring so much when going to school, and your child is just given sandwiches and whatever that you don't give her money, and at the end of the day, there is that gap that she's seeing that their colleagues, their schoolmates are having. But I wanted to emphasize on some of the issues, the societal issue, to say some issues we may think it's barbaric, but it's helping at the end of the day. In KZN, there is Uklola Wendombi. Uklola Wendombi, if you may analyze it your way, Uklola Wendombi, but it does help somehow, some way. And two, the motivational speakers from time to time, because if you have these motivational speakers, they've not come only to motivate girl children. They are motivating the entire school, even the boys. Even the boys are motivated not to do such, and to they will emphasize on abstaining and all. Some of us are staying suppers, and you wonder why the other races are opening, are having that open date for their children, because both parents are monitoring. The parents of the boy are monitoring the boy, and the parents of the girl are monitoring the girl. But it's not in our culture, in some of our cultures. But some of the things that are happening they do help is to reduce this sketch. It is a sketch, indeed. It is killing the nation. And these are the teachers of tomorrow, professors of tomorrow, lawyers of tomorrow, the presidents of tomorrow, MPs of tomorrow, etc. But if they are destroyed at such an early stage, what is going to happen? Yeah, Lucia. I know if you mention poverty, that is a very huge sort of a scenario. It's not upon the Department of Education, Department of Social Development, or any department. But I think we should give them the food of thought to say, if these things, the root causes in so much is poverty, what can be done with the poverty in our schools and within our society? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ma. We come to an end this time, and we are going to give the department to respond. If the department see that there are some responses need to be a written response, they are able to do so, but now is the time for the department to respond. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you to all the members for the questions. I think, Chairperson, that we have tried as a department to go a very long way in putting in place protocols that help us to manage the problem that we are faced with. Indeed, yes, it is a big societal problem that requires various role players to be involved in taking responsibility for the problem. And so we have to make sure that everyone in the schooling community understands what is the protocol that's there, what needs to happen when faced with these difficulties, and what support can be provided, in particular to the learners who may be the ones that are affected, especially around the issue of learner pregnancy. As the Honourable Member Adwins has indicated, often a lot of the issues around pregnancy fall through the cracks in our system because instead of us realizing that there was in fact a pregnancy, we are faced with issues of dropout, and we do not actually understand until we are able to get information around the extent to which this is actually a bigger problem than just a question of dropout. And for sure, during the period of COVID, we saw an increase during that time. The details of the technical information, I'm going to ask Mr. Ndlovu Muzi to answer, as well as the colleague who did the presentation, Ms. Nokama, who can then give you all the work that the current directorate has done, and also what the department has put in place to deal with all of these matters. So over to you, Mr. Ndlovu.
Thank you, Lichik, and also Chair and honorable members. Let me first appreciate the questions and also appreciate the comments and some of the proposals from the committee. I think it is pleasing to understand that, to note that the honorable members have a very clear understanding of the depth of the complexities of the matter at hand. Hence, the recommendations and the proposals.
Mandy?
Sorry.
Mute. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I will start with the first issue because some of the issues were repeated in terms of the involvement of community leadership. Let me indicate to the honorable members to say this policy was presented at the South African National AIDS Council plenary meeting, which is led by the Deputy President of the country, and we have all the premiers of the provinces meeting on a yearly basis. The Department of Basic Education was invited to present the policy as soon as it was gazetted to this plenary. So this plenary involves all the sectors in the country, the children's sector, the civil society, including the traditional leaders, religious leaders, government sector, and even private sector. So we did present the policy at that plenary where these leaders were engaged. And in the provincial dissemination and consultations, we also invited these stakeholders when DBE was disseminating the policy. Ms. Nokama will maybe talk to that further. Let me also, in terms of like the involvement of South African police services, in the school safety program, we have the Adopt a Cop program. So if honorable members can go to most of the quintile 1, 2, and 3 schools, you will find a phone number of a cop that is attached to the school. We have done very well in terms of that program. However, due to the limited resources, is when we need this police, sometimes we don't get them. However, when it comes to issues of pregnancy, we report this to the social workers that work with us at district level, and it is their responsibility to take the case. As the mandate of the department is to teach, we want to ensure that the teacher stays in class and teach, but all these members. And we also have placed, in some of the schools, we have placed learner support agents, which will also tie to the teacher assistants. These learner support agents are there to support the linkage to health and social services. So when learners are having health issues or social issues, including pregnancy, if they need to be referred, we have this cohort that is, however, because of resources, the learner support agents are not in all schools. However, that is where we are trying now to work with inclusive education to ensure that we through the inclusive education program, the CS process, we also equip teachers in schools where there are no learner support agents to say, let us strengthen these school-based support teams and the district-based support teams to do that. However, the proposal from honorable member to also include the teacher assistance is mostly welcome. And the MOU with the Department of Health and Social Development, we have a signed MOU which was signed in 2019. We are working with the Department of Health and Social Development in the Integrated School Health Program. When honorable members get an opportunity to look at the standard operating procedures, these were developed by the 3 departments jointly to look at what education should be provided in terms of sexual and reproductive health in learners, and what are the services that the social development will have to look at. And we do have school health nurses that are linked to schools. The challenge that we have with the school health nurses is 1 nurse, the proportion is 1 nurse to 2,000 schools. And it takes, maybe a nurse will be able to visit a school this year, the nurse will be able to visit that school the following year. So what we have been doing when Ms. Nokama presented the Adolescent Youth Program and the DREAMS program by PEPFA, we have included and we have requested these programs to also support us in providing additional nurses and also additional social workers that will support our integrated school health program, where these nurses will focus on the targeted schools. However, as I indicated, honorable members, yeah, we still have a challenge there because we don't have enough human resources to do that, but these are the efforts of the department to ensure that we try to maximize with the resources that we have, but also to expand and to increase these resources using donor funding and also donor support. And lastly, to indicate from my side is that we also, in terms of involving communities, the minister and the deputy minister are leading what we call the early and unintended pregnancy dialogues with, we are having these dialogues in provinces. I think so far we have conducted 4 dialogues, if I'm not mistaken, in 4 provinces. That is Mpumalanga, Limpopo, Northwest, and KZN. I think that the proposal from Honorable Member Majosi to say the Women Caucus in Parliament to provide oversight of this dialogue, to engage with parents and community leaders, this is mostly welcome, and we would love to work with the honorable members so that these dialogues are not only confined to, at a national level to wait for our minister and our deputy minister, but to ensure that they happen in all the provinces concurrently. I think by that, we will definitely be making grounds. We really welcome those proposals and the others. I will hand over to Ms. Nokama to just touch on 1 or 2 issues that I might have left out. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ndlovu. And honorable members, I greet you again. I just wanted to cover the part about the learner who did not write a matric exam that Vilma alluded to. In Vilma, in case of that learner, as a department, we are actually investigating it further. We actually contacted Mpumalanga to speak with them in order to see what happened in that school. Because when we distributed the policy in all schools in quintile 1 to 3, we wanted to ensure that our schools have the policy so that they actually know what it entails. And with all the cases that we have received, that actually came before exams, we have actually managed them successfully as the department. So we are looking into that. And I think I also want to acknowledge, Mr. Ndlovu, also what Honorable Majosi said, when he actually acknowledged the fact that we are actually finding ourselves as a sector having to actually do more than we should, because she articulated about having teachers having to go to ask a boyfriend to release a student to write an exam, which should not be the case. But I want to say that also with our school-based support team, we actually have this structure in a manner that involves the Department of Social Development, SAPS, the Department of Health. The reason the structure is formed in this way, it's so that when assistance is needed from other departments as well, it can actually be provided, so that even when our learners are referred for services, they actually oh, Mr. Ndlovu is saying something to me, sorry, I'm distracted a bit. But I was saying that for our learners, when they receive services, they actually receive them from professional officials, let me put it like that. But I do want to also highlight the fact that when it comes to the stats, we are actually engaging with Stats SA to understand the statistics that they gave to us in terms of child marriages. And we're also working with higher education in order to understand what we are dealing with in terms of learner pregnancy and management further. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think the last one from Honorable Velma was the issue of the special schools, to say when the policy is disseminated, we disseminate it to all schools. That is why when the Eastern Cape translated it into Braille, we distributed the policy to all the schools of the blind in the country. And also in terms of like the translating the policy into the indigenous language, that is very welcome, and we've been looking at that as a department, because the reason why we as DBE disseminated at a provincial, not district, is so that we code switch. However, the proposal from the honorable members is noted to say we will take strides as a department to bring it to translate the policy into all the official languages, because we see that as provinces are disseminating also at local level using the local language when questions are asked, but when you go to the school, you will find the policy in English. That might also be a challenge, and we welcome all other proposals. Thank you, and over, Chair.
Thank you very much, Department of Education. We have a vast now. Now we have an eye-opener that we have somebody who is in partner with us as parents, as mothers, as Caucus. But I want to go through to your program of LO. Let us closely monitor, because somehow they use this LO as a weapon of doing these things. But I'm leaving it there, and coming to school nurse is a very, very cry of a school nurses, because these nurses come after two years at school where there are many schools. But all in all, thank you very much. Now we are going to have Department of Health. We can stay and observe what health is saying, because we are all in partners. If there are something pressing you as Department of Education, we can release you. Thank you. Department of Health, Mandy.
Chair.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. My name is Linton.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Honorable Chair. My name is Linton Ntuni from Social Development. Chair, I was hoping that the Department of Social Development would present second, because we have, I at least have a board meeting which I need to attend to. And in terms of the program that we received yesterday, we were listed as presenting second. So I seek your indulgence and request in that regard. Thank you.
Okay, but when we think the things going, we think that Department of Social Development is our gogo. It's where everything accommodated there. I was thinking that you are going to put together all this presentation and give us a solid thing. But if you said that, let us give you, so that you are going to give us something with pleasure. Thank you.
Enkosi, Chairperson Siyabonga, and I apologize if I've messed up your program in any way. We will share a very brief presentation because you've asked us to be quite brief, and we'll be as brief as possible. Chair, I just wanted to underline a few points as we come into the presentation, as we perhaps go to the first slide. I think I do want to just place it on record that we, as a department, do remain concerned.
I'm sorry. Mantuli, is it a present hand or is a legacy hand?
It's a legacy hand.
Thank you. Continue.
Thank you, Chair. So I was just indicating that as a department, we do want to place it on record that we are indeed concerned about the increasing levels of teenage pregnancy, which we believe essentially rob children of their childhood and further compromise the children who are born from teenage mothers, who themselves have not been sufficiently prepared to raise children, as they are still children themselves, in actual fact. So we're worried about this phenomena, and I think we've put measures in place, and we'll talk to those measures. Of course, we are conscious that, and I think the previous speakers also spoke to this, that it's not always teenagers who are impregnating teenagers, but it's mostly adults who are impregnating teenagers. And of course, in our view, this amounts to statutory rape, and the law, we believe, must really take its course in this regard and ensure that it is applied in its strongest forms. So as the DSD, Department of Social Development, we're of course responsible for the care and protection of children in line with our principal act for children, which is the Children's Amendment Act. And these measures or care and protection sort of interventions include the provision of psychosocial support, community-based prevention and early intervention programs, which are essentially social behavioral change programs, or what we call programs that build resilience in children. Part of our interventions also talk to strengthening families, which is an important aspect. Most of the time, the responsibility is often placed on government or schools, etc. But we are of the view that the family should take a central role and is the fundamental unit that should be at the forefront of looking after and taking care of children, particularly when it relates to building values and morals, if you like. So I think in addition to that, we're also providing alternative care facilities for children who are highly at risk. And of course, we do this and through and all these interventions through our NPOs, which we fund and support throughout the country to deliver on most of these programs, and we work closely with them through our provincial departments. But we also work with relevant stakeholders, including faith-based organizations, including a range of stakeholders who have shared an interest in addressing some of these challenges, including, by the way, developmental partners, both local and external, as well as UN and AU agencies, particularly UNICEF and the United Nations Fund for Population Development, UNFPA, particularly on issues pertaining to sexual reproductive health and rights. There was, I mentioned earlier about the challenges of shortages of social workers, particularly in schools. Our view is that we should have social workers in every single school, of course, starting at the lowest quintiles, the most poorest of schools. And I think that we've started having the conversation some time ago with basic education, and there are plans in place to look at some of these measures. I'll ask Isabella to quickly go through the balance of the presentation. It's a very short presentation, Chair, and it shouldn't take us very long. So, Isabella. Oh, by the way, Chair, I must apologize on behalf of the Minister for not being able to make it. She's currently caught up in another engagement, but she will join in if she's able to, where she is. So I'll ask Isabella to just put the presentation back on. Oh, sorry, if the presentation has gone off the screen, if the Secretariat could help us, and we'll do this very brief presentation.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning, Chairperson and members. I think the second slide, which talks to the context, as DG has already said, we are very much concerned about the high rate of teenage pregnancy. And in this slide, we've been able to categorize this according to ages. The first category is 10 to 14, where we're having more than 2,300 teenagers who are pregnant. And when we look at the statistics, we are obviously concerned about the statistics. However, the red flags are in Gauteng and Eastern Cape, which are leading with 383 and 317 respectively. And in the category of 15 to 19 years, we've got more than 88,000 children who are pregnant in this category. And obviously, we see KZN leading with more than 25,000, Eastern Cape being the second, and Gauteng being the third. Now, next slide. Now, in this slide, we are basically saying that, as a DBE has said, this is a multifaceted problem, and it requires multi-sectoral approach. And it is on this basis that, we've got the frameworks that are guiding us. The first one is the one that has been approved by Cabinet, which is the National Adolescent Sexual Reproductive Health and Rights Framework, which is led by the Department of Basic Education. But maybe I must also mention the Integrated School Health Program, which is also led by the Department of Health, that are also giving us a framework as different government departments in terms of ensuring that we come up with customized programs and a program of action to address the issue of teenage pregnancy. But I think it's important to mention that this strategy that we are talking about, that I've spoken about, it addresses gaps that hampers progress on adolescent sexual and reproductive health and rights in the country. And with regard to the integrated school health program, and let's move to slide number 4, and the framework that we have spoken about. As the department, we've been able to customize that, to us as the department, and we've been able to come up with, different programs and the program of action to address the issues, that are impacting on child protection. Like, for example, we've got your 365 days child protection program, and which is really implemented on a daily basis by different provinces to ensure that we have activities that, amongst others, include empowerment of children, to be able to make decisions and, to also be resilient. In this slide, we also talk about, I think next slide, which is the 4th slide. We're talking about, as part of the implementation of the program of actions, we have had dialogues with children. We have had dialogues with different stakeholders, because we are saying that it is a multifaceted program, and we've been able to come up with issues that informed, the program of action that I have spoken about, and that also informed, the programs that we are already implementing. We've got different types of programs that we are implementing that are currently child friendly. We've got your YOLO, which focuses on 15 to 25, and we've got your CHOMI, which focuses on 10 and 10 to 14. We've got quite a number of programs that we have really institutionalized to ensure that we reach out to programs. As Abasha, is one of the programs, and we are implementing with different partners, because we recognize that we cannot do this on our own, and we are very fortunate to have, our developmental agencies that are very interested to ensure that they partner with us to deal with issues of child protection. One of the key programs that is very critical with the Department of Social Development, that is there to ensure that we move children from vulnerability to resilience, is RISIHA. It's a community-based prevention and early intervention program, as prescribed by the legislation, which is our principal legislation, which is the Children's Act 38 of 2005 as amended. So RISIHA, we've been able, to reach out to more than 218,000 children for the 2 quarters that we've been implementing for this financial year, and it is being implemented in more than 950 drop-in centers. And we have seen this program as one of the programs that is effective, because some of the sub-programs that we are implementing are the life skills program. We are also dealing with issues of nutrition, because as one speaker has already said, there are a number of reasons that really make children to find themselves where they are. We are also giving support. This program is giving support, educational support, to children, especially those that are in, high-risk families, the child-headed households, but also, those that are in those households where, they really need support in ensuring that they raise their children. And DJ has indicated the issue of strengthening families, which is very critical. It's one of the programs that is very critical that we are implementing as the department. One of the key programs is ensuring that, we assist fathers to play their roles, in families. Hence, we've got programs such as Men's Championing Change, but we also instill values in terms of the boys who are being socialized, in terms of ensuring that they respect, the girls, and they know that it is important, to respect the girls. So there are quite a number of programs that we are implementing as the Department of Social Development, and we acknowledge the fact that we cannot do it on our own. We work together with other government departments. When we move to slide number 5, I think I've already spoken to the programs that we have implemented. And then maybe slide number 6, very quickly. It's also, as I said, acknowledging the partnerships that we are working with in terms of ensuring that we implement, programs such as Caucus, which is quite a critical program to improve the lives of adolescent girls and young women in South Africa. And it is the campaign works towards providing every adolescent girl and young woman in the country with access to resources that they need to lead a happy life and a healthy, successful life. If we move to slide number 7, we are saying that it is also very important as we implement programs, so that we look back and reflect, evaluate, and ensure that, we are able to pick up some gaps, or we are able to say as to whether the programs that we are implementing are making a difference in the lives of our children, or is there any gaps that we can be able to work on to ensure that we improve on our interventions. I must admit that we are not doing well in this regard. However, we are planning a diagnostic evaluation where we'll be able to understand government response to teenage pregnancy. And this study will assist us in assessing the relevance and responsiveness of government intervention in addressing the teenage pregnancy. And we are saying that we'll be conducting this study in 5 provinces. We've been able to try and balance, the provinces in terms of the ruralness and the urban, the urban side. So we've got, your 5 provinces that we have mentioned there. The KZN is there, the Limpopo is there, and we've got Western Cape, Gauteng, and your Northern Cape. Now, as we conclude on the next slide, which is slide number 8, we are saying that the benefits of this slide will assist us in terms of ensuring that the recommendations of that study are being utilized to improve on the services and also to be able to feed into the policy development, because we need to have evidence-based policies that will ensure that the policy itself it responds to the needs of the people. That's one of the benefits of the study. And then I will pause. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thanks, Chair. This brings us to the end of our presentation, and we'll pause on that note. Thank you. And happy to take questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, we are going to have members is going to engage you so that they will become clearer with your program, because all we know to the DSD, we know the grants. But today is an eye-opener that there are some programs which we support the schools, we support the learners. Yes. Now, we are going to call hands from the honorable members. Number 1 is Jane Mananiso. Is only Jane?
Chairperson Uxolo. It's hot, guys.
Yes.
Yes,
Honorable Minister.
Yes, ngiyaxolisa kakhulu, Chair.
Yebo Sibari, ngiyaxolela.
Yeah, ngicela ungixolele man. I am in an event yabantwana who are in prisons, abantwana abahlala kuma prison. So I've been coming in and out of the meeting, and kufuneka ngiyokhuluma manje lapha kule event.
Mageba sitshela ofisa ukusitshela khona.
Ngibonge kakhulu, ngicela ukubonga nje. In the first place, I'm thanking you for inviting us as a department, and I profusely apologize that I have to jump in like this. It is because I'm at Paulsmoor prison. I have a program with the mothers and children who are incarcerated nabantwana. So I didn't want also to miss, just to say I'm thanking you for picking up on the topic itself and the discussions that have happened. And I'm thanking all members of the multi-party Women's Caucus, because, Chairperson, I do want to say that women united behind being a caucus group takes me back to when women were united at the time of negotiations and all. And therefore, the strengthening of the Women's Caucus for me is always very important, because it enables us as a women to speak without fear or favor of the issues that are facing women in South Africa in general. And I'm happy that it is also something that unites us to raise the issues of concern, especially on this day, as we are also marking the painful period, which is 365 days, but we've launched the 16 days of activism. And I'm hoping that members, women across the political parties will carry on this program of going and speaking to our communities, speaking to our society about this scourge, what the president has called a pandemic, so that we can be able to fight it. But I'm also thankful I had a bit of the presentation that was made by the basic education earlier on, and as well as a little bit of what was presented from a health perspective. So from a Department of Social Development, we just wish to thank you and also say, please help us in our programs of the Department of Social Development of dealing with teenage pregnancy, because it is increasing. And as I can tell you right now, I am in the correctional facility here. I'm seeing that it's very young mothers who are here with their children,
And we need to work together to make sure that we end this teenage pregnancy and all the concerns that we have around teenage pregnancy. We must work together with families, together with communities. We are here also with supporters, the churches. Some of them are here not only to pray, but to physically and practically show their support for the work of the government. And therefore, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity and not say much, but to say to the caucus, the women of South Africa who are political in their different political parties, while we might have differences in our political approach, we cannot have differences when it comes to building of families, when it comes to helping our children, when it comes to building this country. And we are going on to our holidays. For us as a department, that's where we see a lot of abuse against women and children, and that's where our social workers are needed most. And I truly wish to thank you for giving me this opportunity and sincerely apologize to the members who had their hands up that it's not because of anything, but it's the program that we have here in Portsmouth. Thank you so much, Chairperson, and thank you to all the women of the Parliament who are present here today. And thank you, Caucus.
Thank you so much, Minister, for availing yourself for those words. We comfort us and we are behind you. Truly speaking, we as multi-party caucus women, we united, we are behind you, are going to support your program now and then. Thank you very much, Makeb. Now we started raising our hands. There is a hand of Jane Mananeso.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, Manani. So I know that the name is difficult. Chairperson, let me thank you as well for steering the ship. And I want to acknowledge and appreciate the presentation by DSD. And as well, one must say that indeed, there's more that has been done to ensure that we deal with teenage pregnancy and reproductive health at education level. Chair, mine is just a few questions, and I want to acknowledge the fact that the department has now have ambassadors who are teenage mothers in schools, and I think that one speaks volume that we are really want to speak about the change that we want to see, because you can only do that by those that we have passed the route before. So it is important that we acknowledge their work in terms of ensuring that we've got those young kids who are speaking to their peers about reproduction health and other issues. Chairperson, I want to check on the program they presented that they are anticipating to have mobile clinics. If so, can they share with the multi-party caucus the program with specific timeframes so that at least we know when are we anticipating this particular mobile clinics? And as well, where can they share with us in terms of where are the specific areas that they have identified perhaps as a pilot where they would have those particular mobile clinics? Because one knows that you won't have all areas with mobile clinics, because in some schools they are closer to the clinic. So there they just need a relationship and a specific office that will be designated to actually assist these young kids when they want services for reproduction health. And I'm impressed about their diagnostic evaluation process. I want to say to them, on this particular process, can they include this multi-party caucus on their program, so that at least when that time comes, we know that we've got delegation from this multi-party caucus, not only from the PC or the department, that would then check and do oversight in terms of the commitment that we are hearing from this particular platform. That's it from my side, Chairperson. Issues of specific timeframes, and as well when all these things it's been anticipated, and can the program be shared to us? Thank you.
Thank you, Mama Naneso. There is a hand of Mantuli. Mantuli, time is yours now. Mantuli. Unmute Mantuli. Let me hand over to the department because even the time is now against us. Let me hand over to the department to say what they say and wind up.
Sibonge kakhulu Hlalo, and sibonge Umam Jane for the questions that were asked. Indeed, I think the work that we need to do with regards to education is very important on SRHR matters, which is sexual reproductive health and rights. We are embarking, in fact, we have started working very closely with UNFPA, and we are literally present in every province, in most districts right now, teaching teenagers about their sexual health and their sexual rights. And we do this particularly, Honorable Chair, with young people and young youth-led NPOs across the country. And we are beginning to see a shift because they are indeed becoming ambassadors for some of this work in terms of informing their peers, whether in schools and whether through various social gatherings that they embark upon. I think the issue of mobile clinics, our Department of Health may be coming through to provide a response on that later. Indeed, there was a commitment made. I think it was in the Eastern Cape, where we jointly engaged. But we do work very closely with the Department of Health, and I'm sure that they'll speak to some of those aspects as well. I've noted the request that we include the multi-party caucus in some of the programs, and I think also sharing information with the multi-party caucus on some of the work that we're doing, because I believe that we're doing a significant amount of work here in the Republic, and we are seeing other countries also wanting to tap into some of the work that we are doing and some of the programs that we have, and wanting to replicate those in various in their respective countries, particularly on the African continent. And so, of course, a lot more must be done in terms of addressing this challenge. And I think we're conscious that it's not only the responsibility placed on government alone, but it does require all sectors of society, and more so the family, household. I think that they play a very critical role. And of course, as I indicated, we continue to work with our NPOs, particularly from a community-based perspective, to ensure that we put in place preventative measures and programs to avert young people and teenagers in the main from getting pregnant at young ages, because of the negative ripple effect that follows through post that. So we appreciate the guidance and inputs from the committee, and we'll certainly be sharing information with yourselves, inviting you to some of the programs so you have a clearer sense of some of the work that we are doing, and essentially do your own oversight in this regard. So I thank you very much, Honorable Chair. We'll pause there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Linton. Have a lovely day. Now we invite Mandy.
Nothing what?
We invite Department of Health.
Yes.
Yes. Abazosjov.
Good morning. It's still morning, Chair, and thank you very much for the invitation. It's Manala Makua speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank
you
very much.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, thank you very much. Secretary, are you able to find the?
But we were very pleased if we can see your face once, then you switch off.
Unfortunately,
Oh, okay. Continue.
Okay, I think the presentation that you have is not the right presentation. Will you allow me to share my screen, please?
Yes.
Sorry about that. I looked at the presentation and then I realized it's not the right presentation. So I did not have the the presentation readily available, but I'll try and find it as quickly as I can. Just a minute, thank you. Sure, sorry about this. I don't know what is happening. It's okay. Let me share.
Honorable members, let us wait because this is the last presentation.
Can you see the present? Can you see the presentation?
Yes, yes. It is clear.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair. And I'm not going to take a lot of time because I think the brief we got was we just needed to have 5 slides. So my presentation will be very brief, but I'm comfortable because I presented a full comprehensive program in August in the same committee. I hope some of the issues that were presented then has been kept in mind. So what I'm going to do is actually to start by indicating the progress made so far and where we are. So I see Department of Health as a whistleblower, really, in terms of this concept. I'm saying it's a whistleblower because I think through the numbers that we are collecting, it gives an indication as to whether the interventions that we are doing across different sectors, DBE, DSD, and health, and many other sectors, whether they are bearing fruits. So I must indicate that at the time when we started collecting this data, we were reporting around 3,500 pregnant girls. I'm talking about the age 10 to 14 years. So those are the younger ones. And actually, they are children. I think that's where the concept of child pregnancy came from, because actually they are not teenagers, although they are teen. But I think according to Child Act, actually they are still babies. So we see the phenomenon that it increased in 2019, 2020, and this is when most departments are alert that it's actually a crisis, and then it went up in 2020, 2021, and then in 2021, 2022, that's when we're starting the process, the return in investment in a lot of programs that have been put in place to respond to this. So we're happy to indicate that actually in 2022, 2023, actually we've made progress in terms of reducing the child pregnancy. However, Chair, let me indicate that when we solve one problem, we create another. This is another problem that we have that has come up now. Now that we're saying they shouldn't carry babies to term, now they are terminating the pregnancies. So we're seeing an increasing number of young children between 10 and 14 who are now terminating the pregnancy. So we're not sure whether it's a good thing or bad thing, but it's really a problem that we're seeing. So that's why I'm saying we are the whistleblowers, because then we would say as a society, how do we then respond if now they fall pregnant and terminate the pregnancy? What are the consequences and what will be the long-term impact in doing all that? But with the 15 to 19-year-olds, I think also the youth programs are bearing fruits now. We're seeing the similar trend that we started low and then it started going up. But I think in 2022, 23, we're seeing an impact and the outcomes of the interventions that were put in place from different sectors, because we can't say it's only health. It's actually multi-sectoral approach that is helping us in get to where we are. So I think I'm just sharing this to say, yes, we're seeing a change, but it's not happening at the pace that we don't have enough time. So the pace is very slow. I think if we accelerate some of the programs, we may start seeing benefits in the long run. So let me talk to some of the issues from health perspective. I think with the integrated school and reproductive health guideline that I presented earlier on, it says now the termination makes a provision for sexually active who request contraceptive should not be denied the service irrespective of age. So I just picked this up particularly because having had the comprehensive sexuality education in school, having had some advices from social development interventions through the CHOMI programs and all other programs that we collaborating with them, then they make a decision to come and request contraceptives. So now we are, as Department of Health, we find ourselves having, although we know the legal age for accessing health services is at 12, but because they are requesting, we've made a provision that we should not deny them. But after providing them, however, they need to be counseled and engage their parents and caregivers and to understand the implication of starting the contraceptives as early as 10 years. So that's one thing. And then when you come to our termination of pregnancy act, it makes a provision that any person can choose to terminate pregnancy irrespective of age. And also, they do not have to provide the reasons for termination of pregnancy. I'm raising this because I know there have been cases where they say, if you are aware of a pregnant child, we're supposed to be reporting to police and all that. But if we provide a termination of pregnancy, this is a very sensitive service that we are providing. We're trying to make it as user-friendly as possible. So the minute you start engaging a young person about who impregnated you and the processes, we actually going to make them not to use the service. And if they don't use the service, they'll keep pregnancy. And if they keep pregnancy, they're actually going to get to term, they deliver. And we know the health consequences of them keeping pregnancy up to term. They are a high risk themselves with the risk of losing the baby at term and then also having a risk of having maternal complications at that point. So this is another area where we're trying to work with different sectors to say, if we rather say in our revised policy on maternity care guidelines, we said we rather say we refer them to social services as opposed to sending them to police, because then they're going to shy away from coming to the services and miss an opportunity of saving them. Because although it's a termination of pregnancy should not be used as a method of contraception, but it gives them an opportunity because we've used the medical termination, which does not actually interfere with their schooling. They can actually do it today and go back to school the following day and continue learning as usual. So then let me touch on the integrated school health policy, which makes a provision of a school health to provide counseling. I think the challenges of the manpower in terms of school health and nurses has been highlighted already. We do have some challenges in that regard, but the issue then becomes even where they are allowed to do so. There's a misalignment in terms of allowing them to access the contraceptive through the school health program. And we know that the referral process does not always yield the results. So this is one area that we're working on to say the counseling should be robust in such a way that the school health nurses, when they get an opportunity, they must counsel them and, if possible, provide them with contraceptives while they are still motivated to do that. So the other issue then becomes the issue around capacity building of healthcare workers to respond to the provision made by Children's Act. So we do know that the Children's Act, it says it's mandatory for healthcare workers or for any other person to report any possible signs of abuse or a violation of children's rights whenever they do that. So the issue here is doing it in the context of not scaring them away from using the healthcare services, because I think the long-term effect would be, if they know that if you present yourself to the healthcare facility, there's a chances that you're going to go through the tedious process of police, they may not come. So it's really about striking the balance between having them access because here when we realize this, it's not only about pregnancy, the issues of STIs come into place, the issues of damage to their uterus, which later on in life complicates into fertility, and many other issues come into play. So it's a very complex issue that has got a long-term health implications. So I think the call to this committee is we need to balance the interventions, and we'll be happy to be assisted as well to say, how do we then balance the act into this? So the issue around the service delivery platform, We have conducted a couple of studies and research has been done extensively to say, why are young people not accessing contraceptives through the healthcare facilities? I think the one thing that came out, it's stigma. And they've been crying. It's stigma from different components, stigma from the peers themselves, stigma from healthcare workers, stigma from the parents, and even stigma from the boy partners. I mean, it's been a very difficult issue. So we've been working with other sectors and partners to make sure that we develop what we call a youth zone. So youth zone really is a platform where we create an opportunity for them to actually express their feelings, their ways in terms of what is actually happening in their sexual life. Because I think we do know that when they get puberty, there's so many changes that are happening. There's emotional dilemmas, there's physical issues. They're dealing with a lot of issues. So it provides that opportunity to say, how do we deal with all those, irrespective of them having a formal lecture in school about comprehensive sexuality education. And then we also deal with facilities to prepare them to be adolescent and youth friendly, so that when they, from the youth zone, when they make a decision to say, maybe it's time that I should actually access a service through the primary healthcare facility, then the facility also should be youth friendly. So we've been doing this project for a long time, and I think the good thing is where we have the youth zones, which is over 2,000 facilities, is also such facility is also being declared as a youth, adolescent and youth friendly, so that we have both sides. So we prepare the young people and also prepare the platform to respond to accept them as when they come. So, but we also know that young people are digital people. So we've tried to create a digital communication platform we call BeWise. So the BeWise really is an interactive platform where they could ask questions when they were not happy, or to report some issues around if the stigma is still happening, or if they can report anything else or all other challenges, or even proposals to say how do they want to see the service being provided. So those are some of the recent issues that we are doing over and above the ones that I presented in August. Let me take the opportunity to thank the committee for allowing us to do the presentation as a follow-up. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. What a comprehensive report. Thank you very much. One would have to ask that, is it possible to the department to have these boys, or is it possible to the school nurse to bring together all the learners and teach them about these things? Because it is rare to get a boy. It is rare to get a father of this child, because this father is after reimbursing by these families. It is there. We knew that they sometimes fathers are selling our children, because if it's 10 to 12 to 14, that is a children, that is a child. But thank you very much. Let me invite honorable members to engage the Department of Health if they are. Yes. Now it's time for honorable members. Yes, Jane Anakela. So far, I've seen Jane and Kela. Because of the time, let us engage.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me start by welcoming the report from the Department of Health. And I must declare that one of the things that is part and parcel of my programs is this one of the use of contraceptives. And I have a program that I normally conduct in my constituency called BOPA, because I've actually experienced that in our youth-friendly services, we still lack in terms of getting young people to speak about teenage pregnancy and just reproductive health. And I think I welcome the issue of youth-friendly services. They are there, they've been there. However, I think we need to strengthen them by bringing these young mothers into the program, themselves running this particular youth-friendly services programs in the clinics. Because till to date, our young people are still experiencing that nurses in particular, they are not actually treating them well when they go and register for these contraceptive pills. And that is why most of them, they rather go have these contraceptive pills at the pharmacies rather than having them at our normal clinics. So there's a serious need of ensuring that we change the perception of our sisters. This thing of being questioned, you are still young, why this and that? I mean, it's a first intimidation for our young girls. So it is important that we make sure that we deal with those such behaviors that we still experience in our local clinics. The other thing I want to ask with regards to, I think one must acknowledge the fact that there's progress in terms of decrease of teenage pregnancy, and we need to note it as a positive thing on the basis that even in a transformational or a developmental country, one is too many. As long as there's change of a one person in a day, it's something rather than not having anybody changing to be a better person. So we need to acknowledge that there's a work that has been done by the department, and we acknowledge in the report. The other thing that I want to check is with regards to the termination of teenage pregnancy. I think we are noting the policy that nobody can be asked why terminate and stuff. And we need to appreciate that these services are being used because we are the ones that have called for, we are the ones that have made policies for them to be legislated. So we need to acknowledge that they are being used. I want to check if the department has the report with regards to this one of illegal termination pregnancy institutions, and what is it that they are doing as a department to ensure that they deal with them radically, so that at some point we won't be having anybody going short left a backdoor termination of pregnancy. And I think we're doing well so far as Department of Health. However, we need to strengthen. Lastly, on the issue of the termination of pregnancy, I want to check if the department has a monitoring and evaluation program in terms of socio-economic status by these young girls who are going for termination of pregnancies. Because at times people think that these services are for most Black people and we don't have white people that are actually using these services. So do they have a demographic, designated report where they can show us in terms of who in those ones who are terminating? We do have all the racial groups. If not, I just want to say to them in future, let us have such so that we can pride ourselves that these services are not only for us as Black people, as people normally say, these are services that are used for us, but it's services that are used for all. That's it from myself, Mema. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me also welcome the presentation from the Department of Health. I was just whispering with my Honorable Mabiletsa here that we also suffer from black market termination places in South Africa, which maybe the department, if they have a plan also to check actually, and maybe if we can get a report regarding that. But coming to the research shows that comprehensive sexuality education can drastically reduce the teenage pregnancy. How can communication about the significance of using contraceptive such as birth control and access to them be improved for learners who are sexual active? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Let me call Peters.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think Honorable Gela has covered one of the aspects of what I was going to raise. The issue that I want to know is how well resourced is the department with regard to health promotion? And because in health promotion, I believe you would be targeting both boys and girls, because the focus on teenage pregnancy does not also, despite the fact that we know that these girls are impregnated by older people, but we also need to teach the boy child about the need to avoid sexual sexual activity up until certain stages of maturity. But also in health promotion, you could then be able to teach these young girls of the impact of early exposure or early involvement in a sexual activity, because it is important that they know what happened. Almost like the campaign, I would remember Burkina Faso once ran a campaign on what was it called? Feminine, that genital mutilation that was happening there, which involved the entire community, including Amakos. I believe that the type of movement and the type of public platforms that as a country we were engaged in during the time of motivating and alerting and cautioning and making awareness about HIV and AIDS. On some of these others, we don't do that. And health indicators do show that exposure to early sexual activity does have later life type of a problem for the woman. Then I just wanted to find out the issue of that program, Love Life program, whether the department still have a relationship or an agreement with them, because they are able to do peer education. Then the issue of termination of pregnancy. Yes, termination of pregnancy, we are informed it's still there and it is still being done in the backgrounds. We do have quite a number of time reports of newly born babies being dumped, and it is some of these things. And we need to talk about this issue, including the need to educate our people that it's safer to go to the health facilities, designated health facilities, instead of going behind somebody's shack to go and do this. Comrade Jane, you touched a very important point when you spoke about teenage pregnancy in the white communities. One of the things that I have observed, Minister and team, is that the services that used to exist for pregnant white girls are still in existence through the NGOs that are servicing mostly the white community. There is also that phenomenon that used to be called the hospital school, where a white girl would be taken from the community and put into this hospital school, being pregnant, still going through a education, but also being able to get the necessary care and support during the time of pregnancy. That is also intended to work with these NGOs so that at the time of birth, the child is then handed over for adoption. And I think these are some of the things that we need to investigate and find out. Why it is easy to remove a child from a white family as opposed to an African or Black community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for your input. Now it's time for Honorable Carol.
Thanks, Chair. Good afternoon to your good selves and colleagues. And let me join honorables in appreciating the presentation. Chair, mine will be similar or a slight on the basis that I want to check with the stats or statistics that you are getting in terms of your
a minor pregnancy or a child pregnancy. In this case, there are kids these days, because of how they are growing up, they can take themselves. I have a case, actually, let me just put it in this way, where a child and the boyfriend, they managed to save money and went to a private doctor, and they removed pregnancy without um, the the acceptance or the knowledge of the parents, both the side of the mother and the boy child. So I want to check, do you also have that stats when you talk about child pregnancy or children who are terminating pregnancy? Because I believe you only consider those who go to public hospitals. But in this case, do you also check how many kids does those things? Because I have a serious problem with that. It happened closely to part of my family, and the kids managed to save money and went to terminate pregnancy in a private doctor, and the doctor says it is allowed. It's doctor patient something, or how you call it. So I wanted to check on that basis. And how do you then, as I want to agree or concur with Honorable Peters, the issue of your love life. When we grew up in our times, love life assisted a lot, because there are peers, there were young people who were coming to school talking to us, who were very comfortable talking about it. And maybe it was focusing on high schools, but currently, with the age that we are talking about kids who are at primary school. We are talking about kids between 9 years and 14. And some of them, most of them, they're still in primary. I also have a case where in one of my constituencies, I got a 9-year-old child who gave birth. Even when you ask, because there are family matters, the parents, I went there, personally, parents, they said it's a family issue. You don't know the father. It tells you that there's a gap in terms of educating, giving support to children who are still at primary. But I wanted to check with the department, how do you then give us stats of those who are terminating pregnancy in private doctors? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Carol. And I also witnessed that. And the family did want that to interfere. And they say this is a family matter. We go to Induna, and Induna Inkosi, and the Bakoka Amahlawul. Thank you very much. Now let us give the department to say what to say, because honorable members, they have put their views, their questions. Now it's time for you, Department of Health, to open us.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thanks to the honorable members for engaging in this discussion. I think you would wonder, why am I alone in this? Actually, the team that is working on this, they are actually on the ground today. We are launching what we call a digital self-care service. So we trying to respond to the issues of healthcare services or the primary healthcare clinics not being user friendly. So what we're doing now is, instead of young people going to the pharmacies to buy and whatever, and those that are unable to buy struggling, we're actually creating an ATM to dispense the contraceptives. So we're launching that in case that end today. So it's not going to be only the oral pill for now. I think it's going to be the oral pill in terms of contraceptives for now, because of the complexities of others are healthcare worker dependent. We cannot do that. But in the same machine, we're putting in the emergency contraceptives, because some girls, we know that the drivers of unsafe sex. when they do that, they know they've done that. Maybe they purposefully engaged, but then the following morning they are aware, then they realize that they could be pregnant. So we're also including the emergency contraceptive in that. And we also including some other contraceptive methods that are easy to access, like an oral pill. But together with that, we are working with Love Life. So Love Life is still alive. So it still has peer educators. So what we're doing now is we're supporting because Love Life was the peer educators, but mainly they were not qualified healthcare professionals. So there's a move that we are now supporting Love Life to now have qualified professionals who work in the helpline. So the helpline is where they call the call center. So yes, they'll do peer to peer, but they'll have a backup of a professional to respond to some of the very clinical questions that would come up. So yes, in responding to that question, yes, it's still there. And in terms of having the young nurses being the ones running the youth-friendly services, we are aware young people are saying the same thing. It's been a challenge, but I think we would also appreciate that young people are not also interested anymore in taking the nursing and some of these professions for some reasons, because they're looking at the professions that are actually newer and emerging in the service. So we're also struggling to get young people who are enrolling. So even when you go to the colleges, you actually get people who are older, who are diversing from the previous professions. But we are aware, young people have been telling us that. So in the situations where we do have a young nurse, we use them in that. The issue around boys and girls, quickly, Chair, if I can share with you, when we run these programs with school health nurses, we do bring in the boys. And initially, it was having girls one side and boys another on the other side. But we've realized that it doesn't really work, because boys are also going through the sexual and reproductive health issues. They've got the issues, and they find a way, because no one is supporting them. So I think gradually we go into a combined issue, because I think one lessons that we've learned, we had a mini pilot where we were having boys actually being the ones who are championing the contraceptive issues, to say they are the ones who are supposed to talk to their girlfriends about contraceptives. It was run by Moho. We used to call it Moho campaign. Moho meaning togetherness campaign. So actually, that's where we realized that bringing in boys, and if we equip boys, because of their issues, if they're well informed, they're likely to influence their girls to do that. So in terms of responding to some of them having exposed to sexual debut, and then they start engaging in sexual activity at a young age, and subsequently struggling with secondary infertility and all other issues. We actually advocating for long-term reversible contraceptives. So we saying it's good to use contraceptives of your choice, but however, the long-term reversible ones are the better off, because you don't have to interface with nurses where you're saying they are not welcoming. You don't have to be absent from school because you have to get your contraceptives. You just get it once, like the IUCD is once for 10 years, you forget about it. Or you have your implant, it's once for 5 years, you forget about it. So if it's in primary, you can even finish your primary schools. If you do it in secondary, when you start secondary, you can even finish your secondary. If you start it in first year, when you're going to do tertiary, you'll finish it without having to interface with healthcare workers in terms of that. So, but then in the issue of health promotion, yes, we agree that we're having some challenges in terms of strengthening the health promotion program. However, what we've done is we piloted what we call a side-by-side. I'm not sure if some of you know about it. It's a sort of a story. I think every radio has the story. I know in radio, I think in Tobela, they call it Matlakung, in Ikosi, every radio station have got their story. So we've created the story for people for health. So that story is called Side by Side. It's been aired in almost all the radio stations, all 11 national radio stations. So the intention was we need to start with the cohort that are used to it and grow with it. So usually for now, it covers children under 5, but it also covers sexual and reproductive health for mothers who've got babies already. So we will build on that, and as soon as we have more capacity and resources, it will continue. So we're intending not to stop it because people are used to it. So I think now it's in session 4. So in session 4, we're bringing in issues around the mental health, because I think we've realized that one of the issues that contributes to all this teenage pregnancies is all the issues around the mental health, people trying to improve their ego, their self-esteem, and all that, and then they indulge in sex. And the other issue of homeschooling and or hospital school, I'm not familiar with the hospital school phenomenon, but I think the issue of homeschooling could also be a potential intervention to mitigate some of the challenges that are dealing with stigma associated with pregnant learners who are supposed to go to school, and even where parents, they feel they don't want their children to go there. The concept of homeschooling could be a potential area for intervention. Yes, I agree. In terms of statistics, we're not collecting statistics from private sector, but we are aware that there are terminations that are happening in private sector. So what we're doing is we're working with private sector to create a memorandum of understanding for them to report all the services, because they report. I think the reason why we're working on this is they are reporting, there's a system for them to report the adverse events that resulted from pregnancy. Things like maternal death, they report and all that. So we're working towards getting them to report also on the deliveries that are happening, because they skew our data if they only report the adverse events and they're not reporting the deliveries that they are conducting. So we're working on that. It's something that maybe in a year or two, I'll be coming back and reporting to say this is the process that we've made. The burning issue, illegal abortion. I think that most of you would be aware that our deputy minister, in the whole of 2022 and 2023, he was championing the marches and the illegal the marches against the illegal abortion. And when he did that, he would invite the local councillors, because it's about the bylaws of advert, to say, we think this are being advertised everywhere else. What are the local municipalities saying? So I must indicate that we've covered all the 9 provinces so far. We've compiled the report. We've got a better understanding of what is the drive behind the illegal abortion, and then we've picked up their marketing opportunity. So their marketing opportunity really was the medical abortion. So they would say, I'll give you a pill. So from the health point of view, we then saying, if we continue or we upscale the use of medical abortion, which is only suitable between 0 and 9 weeks, then we may be able to combat this access to illegal abortion. But obviously, the one issue that goes with that is, which is it's critical for platforms like yourselves to assist us in lobbying for support in doing that. It's routine random pregnancy testing in schools. Because if we do that, we'll pick them up very early, and then they'll qualify for that medical abortion, and it doesn't even have the long-term impact on them, and it doesn't even allow them, it doesn't even get them out of school, and it could be handled confidentially without the knowledge of anyone, and then they'll continue with schooling, and obviously then accessing the contraceptives. So, but we know that there are challenges in parents and SGBs allowing the routine random pregnancy testing in schools. I think that would be one strategy that you can assist us in lobbying for. It will help us in minimizing the long-term effect about long-term, because we'll catch them very early and will provide the service, and then confidentially they can continue with schooling, because we don't even require parental consent in terms of them making a decision to keep or terminate the pregnancy. I think I've covered. Okay, there was a question around demographics, the data, to say, do we even know who are those people, or is it a certain category? And I must say that generally we have a concept that says it's people in the rural area and people with poverty. We're seeing a different phenomenon. actually these services and these abortions and child deliveries are actually happening in middle and high income. And I think the phenomenon is because of the boarding school phenomenon, because they are away from parents, they have access to money, they have all those things, they do that. So some of them, they even do it within the public health services. So we are aware that this is not something that is associated with the low socioeconomic only. Even in the higher socioeconomic, we have such issues. I think, and even in terms of the color or race, we are not collecting that data. However, we are aware that actually there's a balance between the people who are accessing it, because the reason why it looks like we don't have teenage deliveries amongst the white community is because they access the termination of pregnancy far quicker and earlier than, because they can read and write, and then they also have access more than the black community. Let me pause there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your response. Understandable, tangible. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Nomboi. Now our time is against us, but I want to, if there is a pressing something I can give you, but time is against us. Nomboi?
Thank you, Chairperson. And my apology to come in at this time. My question is prompted by the response that the presenter has given on the issue of low intake of young nurses. It's concerning because it means one day we'll wake up and we'll be, having a shortage of nurses all over the country. Now, my question, or even also advice is that is there any mitigation, a plan to make sure that we are not going to run out of nurses? And secondly, as an advice, is to look into doing what the basic education is doing. They have a target of recruiting young teachers by providing them with a bursary that is called Funza Lushaka, so that we never run out of teachers in the country. So I'm thinking that maybe also health department can do that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nomboi. We have a very, very important point in that, because now everybody is getting tired. We are going to be bankrupt in terms of nurses. But before I release you, the Department of Nurse, let me give you this homework of LGBTQ1+. Go and think about and help the people and help the mothers about this. Go and think about who will come as this caucus, come to you and say what you know, what is going forward, what your statistics about this, but not today. I'm giving you a homework. Have a very wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mandy?
Chair.
Thank you, yes, Chair.
Now, adoption of the minutes.
Yes, I'll flag the first minute.
Yes. Well, it's now. Peters, is it a legal hand or the recent hand? Legacy hand. Continue, Mandy. Mandy,
Recording stopped.
Mandy, Mandy,
Recording in progress.
Chairperson, my apologies. My reception is very bad. I'm back again.
okay. Let us fly our minutes. First set.
It's the 31st of August, Chair.
I thought we all read the minutes. I only want a mover and a seconder. Or if there is something which is rising in the minute, we can do so. Yes. 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 Here are the first set of the minutes. Is there something wrong? We can change it, or is there anything in our minutes? Let me have something from you, honorable members. If there is none, let us have a mover and seconder. Mandy,
yes,
come again so that we can see the attendance register. Yeah, yes. Honorable members, let us have a mover or a seconder of this, the first minutes. It means there's nobody in this meeting who was there. Yes, Rachel?
Thank you, Chairperson. I move for the adoption of the minutes. I thank you.
Thank you, Ma. The seconder, Honorable Masondo.
Thank you, Chairperson. I second the mover.
Thank you to you. Let us have the second set.
Also having a load shedding issue, so she's in and out.
Yeah. We will bear with Mandy. Mandy is having a load shedding issue. We'll bear with her.
Chair Nafengwa, the 21st of September's minutes are on the screen now. Is on the screen.
Thank you. Thank you. Here are the second set of minutes. You have to look your name whether you were there or not. I think in this meeting we were full because we were fuming about the permit. Is there anyone who's mover? Yes, we were fuming about the permit.
Honorable Chair,
Yes.
it's Honorable TV here. I second the adoption of the minutes, Honorable Chair. Sorry.
You second who? You are moving.
Okay, sorry. I'm moving for the adoption of the minutes. Sorry, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable.
Chair Mantuli, I second Honorable Kibi.
Amen. Thank you. The last set, Mandy. I know you are having a problem of network, of load shedding. Here is the 26th October.
And what? Just to
Yes.
just to inform members that per the agreement made per the resolution members made in this meeting to refer to request urgent intervention from the speaker regarding the PARMED matter. The letter was written submitted to the speaker and the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, and we are still waiting for a written response from those officers.
We all know that letter. May I have a mover or a seconder? Yes, Rachel?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I move. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Adams. Seconder?
TV seconds, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, honorable members. What you have did today is an extraordinary, but thank you very much. Wishing you a very marvelous and prettiest, festive and prosperous new year together with your families, and God be with you all day and night. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you.
Long live the chair.
Long live the
Recording
chair.
stopped.
Bye.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Amen.
Tombo.
Siyabonga Chair, siyabonga Mkhaya.
Thank you, Chair.
Hey. Amen.
Long live the chair.
Long live. Asambeni siyolungela ukuyongena kwi-plenary.